Good evening, everybody, and I hope you're all enjoying a wonderful weekend. Today's video will be. I just realized I don't have the microphone. Today's video will be on communication. It's a very important thing, so I want to cover it. My name is Aiden, and my channel is Remind Us. So, communication. Before I get into that topic, because I know several people are going to join the live stream, I want to talk about a story of a young lion. This story happened in the United Kingdom in the 70s. It was about two men that found a young lion cub. Now, they decided that they would take this young cub home with them and they were going to raise it. And as the lion grew older, it quickly became apparent this animal could not continue to stay in the apartment with them. It needed, a ground for running and exercise and playing. So they got permission from a local church to let the lion out onto the church grounds. And that's what they would do. Every day, they would go out and play with Christian on the church ground. And as time went by, the trust between the lion and the two men was unbreakable. The lion depended on the two men, and the two men did everything they could to take good care of this lion. And yet, both men knew this was a wild animal. Yes, it was being raised by two men like a domestic house cat almost. But they knew this animal belonged in the wild. So they continued taking good care of Christian the lion, and they started looking for help and funding to take the lion to Africa, if I'm not mistaken. And as time goes by, they do manage to get the lion into Africa and they release him into the wild. I think they did several weeks of acclimatization. Like first he would be in a large cage with them. They would still play and talk to Christian their lion, and every day they would let him out of the cage and let him wander around until eventually everybody felt confident he would do well on his own. So Christian the lion, raised by two humans, was now all in the wild. No more human contact. And the two men returned to the United Kingdom. If you have watched this documentary, you might have seen the end. It is incredibly emotional, even to me. Like it makes me want to cry. I probably do cry, but years go by and the men decide to go to Africa and see if they can see Christian again. It turns out that a local wildlife caretaker actually knew Christian, so he took the two men to his, terrain, his domain, essentially. And to this point, nobody knew what to expect because a wild animal is a wild animal. It doesn't know humans. It does usually not want to interact with humans. And let's face it, a lion could kill you within seconds, probably. So they had no idea what to expect whatsoever. So they took a big gamble going into Africa, into the wild, to see if they could find Christian again. And they do. Christian does show up after some time. I think it took them a whole day of waiting. And at this point, you see the two men standing in the middle of the open, like a place where a lion could just, again, smash you. And Christian slowly comes up to them. Now, we're talking pretty long distance, probably a quarter mile, half a mile. And somehow Christian recognized the man and started running towards them and jumped up like a dog that hasn't seen you for several days. You know how they stand on their hind paws? Imagine a fully grown wild lion doing that. So yes, Christian jumped up at the two men, and it was heartwarming. I don't have enough words to explain how that will make you feel if you watch this video. But the reason I wanted to bring this story up is because it doesn't just end there. Remember, he was released into the wild. Not only did Christian come back to the two men, Christian apparently now had a wife and several lion cubs of his own. They were standing in the far background. And towards the end of this story, you can clearly see Christian has a line of sight to his wife. And this line of sight, 0 words are obviously spoken, and yet everything is communicated to show to the wife, this is safe. I trust these men. Please introduce yourselves to my friends. And that is what happens. Christian's wife, another wild animal that has never interacted with human. Mind you, Christian was raised by humans. This wild lioness essentially had never been interacted with by humans. So for them to just come up to two strangers essentially is huge. And of course, the young lion cubs follow the mother. That story to me is amazing on so many levels, but the video is about communication. And if you have seen the story that I'm talking about, you will know there is no way the female lion and the young cubs could have ever known to trust a human, never mind walk up to them and greet them as one of their own. So how did this happen anyway? I think it all was because of Christian, the main lion, conveying information to his wife and young cubs that does not require words. That is why I brought that story up. It also gave people time to join the live stream, of course. Can somebody say something in the chat? Because so far I see nothing, and I just want to make sure I didn't, disable it or something. I don't think I did, but anyway. So where can I start on communication? Obviously, the lion story. Sean Walker, you're here. Awesome. Thank you. It's working. Good to hear. Hey, Emma. Awesome. You're finally here on a live chat. Perfect. If you guys want to give yourself input, I told Reverend Sean Walker I would just talk myself for like half an hour maybe, and then I will join you guys in the chat and maybe talk about the topics you guys are bringing up or discussing. But yes, so communicating, I think the first thing I want to touch on is hearing, listening, communicating. These are all things that belong in the same area. But I'm going to give you an example first, and I'll go from there. I'm going to tell you a sentence and see if we're communicating or not. Ready? Kun je alstublieft naar de winkel gaan voor mij en koop 1 appel, koop 1 banaan en koop 3 aardbeien? You see what happened there? I communicated. But did we communicate? That was Flemish, of course, and it was a different language, but I was communicating. I said, can you please go to the store for me, buy me an apple, a banana, and strawberries? So you see, even though I know every word that I'm saying, in my mind, I'm communicating. But if you do not comprehend, if you do not understand the words that I'm saying, we are not communicating. I'm just talking. You might be listening, but to what extent have you heard what I said? You see, that is one very simple example of what is and isn't communication. Another thing that I want to touch on in the future is energy. And if you heard the story of the lion, Christian, I consider that a form of energy communication. It doesn't require words, it's a feeling that is transmitted through the ether, through the universe, whatever fabric, whatever name you give to that fabric that just conveys all information, physical and non physical. So I'm always fascinated with that language that cannot be spoken, it can only be felt. And strangely enough, it is the most understandable language, easiest to comprehend if everybody would know it. I want to do a video on that with Reverend Sean Walker in the future, because him and I both give this a different name. I call it telepathy. He calls it empathy, if I'm not mistaken. But I can clearly hear we're both talking about the exact same thing. So today in this video, I'm going to stick more to the communication that is mainly done by the use of your voice. I mean, another easy example of communicating that doesn't require your voice is sign language. So everything is great. I'm doing good. You see, like thumbs up. Everything's good. You're doing good. It's it's a very crude and basic thing, and yet you wouldn't believe if you went to a different country, people will know the gestures you're making with your hand. You see, this is already a slightly more worldwide accepted and known language. Basic hand gestures. Yes, body language. So this video will be mostly about the verbal speech. So where I'm going next is cursing. I have a very different look on what to do when people are cursing, because again, communicating, when somebody is cursing, that is communication. They are using words, but I always feel as if the person isn't really cursing at me, they are just expressing themselves. When you are incredibly frustrated, not necessarily with the person you're speaking to, you're just incredibly frustrated, you are so much more likely to throw an F-bomb in there, or, equally nasty words. Are you therefore a bad person or a bad communicator? Not at all. To me, it always feels people that curse like that, they are expressing that they are not satisfied with themselves, with their own thoughts, with their surroundings, with their life, maybe, and therefore that aggression in a way comes out through their communication. Again, they're not communicating to you that you're a problem, but sometimes it feels to us that way. Somebody communicates with a lot of nasty words. Try not to hear the nasty words, just try to realize how that person is feeling and know that the words are just that. They're expressing their feelings, not by the use of the words of the feelings. I do that sometimes. Yep. So yeah, you see, I'm not immune to this. I do the same thing not quite often, but it happens when I'm frustrated enough with my job, or even if I'm hot all day. Yes, I might suddenly say a word that I don't usually say. But most people who have heard me speak, and I've done about 20 videos now, I don't think I say a lot of curse words, because I like to have intelligent conversation. And if you've ever met a person from New York, I'm not kidding. I don't think they can just naturally say a single sentence without an F word in it. It's just natural to them. It just flows natural to them. Me and Reverend Sean Walker were talking earlier, and he said the word bollocks. It's it's an expression, but it's just a word. Like, in America, we like to say shit or bullshit or fuck. Are you really cursing, or are you just actually letting feelings out? You see what I mean? You're not necessarily trying to communicate a nasty word. You're just expressing your feelings without having to say 20 sentences to try and explain how you're feeling. You're trying to nail a nail in wood with a hammer. You hit your thumb or whatever finger. Bollocks. You see, things like that. You could say many things, but bollocks would be an easy expression. So yeah. So that's what I wanted to say about cursing. If people communicate with a lot of cursing in their vocabulary, essentially, I often also wondered, are they is this a lack of intelligence? Like they just don't know the words that they want to say, so therefore they express it with the words that they do know. Cursing, obviously, because that is something I think is often the case too. People don't know how to express themselves well. So what do they do instead? They resort to something that's already natural to them. Let me start cursing instead. I like to expand my vocabulary so I don't have to curse when I'm frustrated. I just tell people I am frustrated, give me some space. You didn't do anything. You see, that way everybody has some idea like, okay, I need space. They didn't do anything wrong, so they don't have to chase me with 20 questions like, did I say something? Did I do something? No, I just reassure everybody immediately. And that way they know if they don't give me some space, I might start saying words too that I'm better off not saying. All right. So that said, I want to give a quick heads up to people that I know are listening. And I want to just tell you, I appreciate you all. Emma, you're one of them, of course. I still hope to do a video where you can be live. That will be more for you. Somebody else is Steve McNeil. We have a mutual friend in common, and I am personally telling you, keep going. Reverend John Walker, you are also, of course, an amazing help to me. And Yasmin, I don't know if you're on yet or not, but I know you and I have long and good, helpful conversations too. Amara, I believe he lives in Sierra Leone. He listens to many of my videos too. Again, I appreciate all of you, and I hope I am of some help to all of you in whatever capacity that may be. Maybe it's one new word that you learn. Maybe it's a new approach to a situation you experience every now and then. I don't tell you what to do. I just tell you what I try. And if you hear something that may work for you, give it a try. Nothing ever happens if you don't try something. Very simple like that, right? So, trying to think what direction to go here from here on. I just actually have a paper sheet here with me for the first time, and I wrote a bunch of topics down to just make sure I don't veer too far off topic this time. And, I stick within the bounds of communication, basically. Another way, earlier I gave you an example of Dutch. I spoke Flemish, and I said, I am communicating, but we are not. I'll give you another example that is still communicating, and yet many people have no idea. That example is expressing time. Yes, the clock, the time. In Europe, we go by a 24-hour clock. In America, we go by a 12-hour clock. So if I am in Europe and I say it is, let's be realistic here. Okay. It is 16:20. A European will know it is 20 minutes after 4 in the afternoon. The military, however, they use a different system again. They use military time. To them, it would be 1620. But you see, military time, and I don't know if it's called European time, but that's just the way we express it, except we have the double dot between hours and minutes. But you see, if I'm here in America, which I am, and I tell an American it's 1620, most Americans have no clue what I'm saying. They know I'm trying to express time, but they're not comprehending the time I'm saying. So you see, that is an example of all of us communicate with the words that we know best. But for communication to really be successful, let's say, but people need to comprehend the same vocabulary, or you are going to get lost in words. And I think that is one of the biggest problems that we have on this planet now. All of us are talking, and yet all we end up in is arguments. Isn't that strange? That seems to be the default end game of communication. Somebody talks, everybody hears a different thing, and now we're all arguing about what was actually said. I don't want to throw religion in here, but often when I hear people speak about how they interpret the Bible, I find that an almost amazing example. How can one book cause so much confusion? That's really how I see it. Like it's just text on pages and pages of a book that is centuries old, and we cannot agree on what that book is actually trying to communicate. So another scenario that I hope you don't have to find yourself in is if you live with somebody who has dementia, or someone that is even comatose completely, like they're alive, but they can no longer communicate. They don't even have body language to express themselves. If you are speaking to such a person, you don't necessarily feel as if you are communicating. Why? Because by default, when we say the word communication, we are saying a person is speaking, another is listening, and eventually the roles will turn. The person that was listening will now start talking. You see, when you have a situation like that, what I like to do is talk to this person, whether they're comatose, dementia, or whatever mental issue might be going on. Speak to them as if they are a normal person, as if they hear every word you are saying. Because believe it or not, deep down, this is actually true. I myself struggle with carrying on a conversation when there is no instant feedback. Conversation is usually two ways. I have a difficult time just speaking. Like right now, I am just speaking to the camera and the microphone. It is sometimes difficult for me because there is no real feedback. Yes, people are now starting to use the chat, and that is incredibly helpful. Like I don't just feel like I'm just blabbing here to myself. So yes, when you're um, speaking to a person that is disabled to the point they can no longer verbally speak or use body language, speak to them as if that is still the case. We're not going to lean too far into energy, but I believe that even if you are in a coma, you are still receiving the energy from your surroundings. So even though you think you are just talking and the comatose person is not listening, you might actually be very far from the truth. So yes, that is another form of communicating, but it feels like a one-way communication because there is no feedback. Then we have hearing versus listening. I'll give you a silly example. I remember when I went to school, cell phones had just started existing, and let's just be honest, we were all texting in the class, in a way that the teacher hopefully would not notice. But my point is, the teacher was trying to teach his class. He is at the front of the class speaking. Are we hearing what the teacher says? Yes. Are we listening? Not really. Why? Because our attention is actually on our cell phone. You see, this happens everywhere you go. Are you just hearing what's being said around you, or are you listening? If you're hearing, it's almost the equivalent of in here, out there. If you're actually listening, you are trying to really comprehend what is being said. You're trying to incorporate it, try to listen enough that you can give feedback. Again, communication. So, something else that I would like to touch on is when several people witness the same thing, how is it that everybody seems to have observed something? They observe it from a different angle. The example that me and Sean came up with earlier is a yogi and a person with a scientific background are sitting in a room, and a butterfly comes flying through the window and it sits on one of their shoulders. The yogi will give probably a very detailed example on the significance of this butterfly in nature, in the cosmos, even, whereas the science person will completely fall back on scientific facts. They will say, no, the butterfly will just coming after your pheromones or whatever body scent you have going on. You see, it will try and justify the butterfly's existence, why it came to them, from a completely different angle. The yogi might just have a nice smile on his face and saying, this butterfly is coming here to say hi to us. All right? Oh, sorry, my back is feeling funny. Something else that is big in the area of communication is, are words the same as experience? Meaning, if I tell you about a particular event, I'll give you a simple example. If I tell you how to open the hood of your car, how to take the oil cap off, how to pull the dipstick out of the oil, clean it off, put it back, blah, 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 if you ever change your oil. It's a very basic principle, but many of us have never done that. So you see, I am communicating to you an experience that I had, and I am telling you how to do it, where to find everything. So I am using my words and my experiences to communicate to you an experience that I had, essentially. If you hear all these words, can you now say that you know how to change the oil of your car, or how to check the oil level of your car? You see, hearing somebody's words or actually experiencing the thing for yourself are still two completely different things. I actually struggle often when people say that they know how to do something, and I always wonder, do you think you know how to do something, or you actually had the experience and you can now tell me the experience that you had? You can share the knowledge of your experience. What's an example here? If you think of living in a box, you have never seen the outside world, not anything, and I tell you everything about the wind outside, what the wind feels like on your skin, what it sounds like when it's blowing through the leaves of a tree or it's knocking over your trash can. So you see, if I express everything that I know about the wind, everything that I have experienced about the wind, to a person that has lived in a box his whole life, is that the same, or is that actually it's not the same? What I want to say is that as useful as just letting that person experience wind for 2 seconds? You see, I can use a million words to try and define and express one tiny simple thing, such as the wind. But no words can ever do justice as one simple experience, just like standing outside in the breeze. So you see, when people tell you things, they're communicating to you, but maybe try and remember that they are conveying to you an experience that they have had. Maybe not. Maybe they're conveying to you something that was told to them by somebody else. I prefer people that tell me about stories that are personal to them, as in they have experienced it, because secondhand information is always difficult to know what to do with. Even if they're trying to explain what the wind feels like to them, that's a silly example because all of us have felt the wind at some point. But try and imagine if you never felt wind. What do you need to hear to feel like you can now clearly communicate and feel what wind is like? It's almost impossible, right? Reverend John Walker, I am wondering, expression of love. Any ideas? You see, I personally, and again, this is an expression that I hear a lot when it comes to communication in relationships. How often have you seen this quote, and it's being thrown out there way too much? Actions speak louder than words. It's a very simple quote. I get what it says, but what is an expression of love? How can we express to somebody else love? It is, again, if you have been in love once and somebody talks to you about it, you can easily relate. Now, very often, a child at some point will ask its parents or a friend, how do I know that I'm in love? And the best thing most adults can come up with is, when you know, you'll know. Or when you're in love, you'll know. Like, there is no mistaking the feeling. And yet, can we actually say anything to the child? Okay, well, when you feel A, B, C, and D, that's when you're in love. That is almost an injustice to the child. What you really just did is say, to me, A, B, C, and D are expressions of love, or that is how I feel when I'm in love. Why am I saying that is almost dangerous? Because you are now limiting the mind of a child to look out for only these four things. And unless these four are there, it must not be in love. Um, I always find it dangerous to explain things to kids because I always feel we are limiting their minds. I'm sorry, let me stick to love a little bit more because I veer off topic easy. I'm sorry, guys. um, I think it would almost be better if the child were just to experience life. Eventually, it's going to fall in love with something. And yes, I mean something, not just another person. It could be their pet, could be their hobby, it could be their arts and crafts. Love is a very all circumventing word, and it is actually one of these words that I'm never sure if I should use it or not. Um, I actually looked into the language of Sanskrit. It turns out they have over 30 words for the English single word love. Like when we generally enjoy something, truly and really appreciate something, the love word seems to just naturally fall in these sentences. That's fine. But I love my car. Am I having a romantic relation with my car when I say that? Like mechanophilia. Yes, that's actually a thing. There are people that have a love relation with their car, everything included. But you see, when I simply say I love my car, I am just expressing, I am just saying and communicating, I really appreciate my car, that particular kind. I like that it goes fast. I love that it can go through the turns, and I feel some G-force. So you see, another thing that I find an expression of love, and this is not necessarily, again, we're speaking mostly about spoken communication now. For me, love is easily expressed by giving your time to another person. Not saying selling your time. You're not a plumber. You're not an electrician that is selling your skill and your time. But when a person is just spending time with you, being present with you, even if no words are being spoken, to me, that is a form of expressing love. We are often very hung up in the words people are using to express what they're trying to say. Have you ever noticed that when nothing is being said at all and you're just being present, there is actually a lot of communication going on? You just never paid attention to that. Could be as easy as body language, like is the person breathing more aggressively? Can they sit still? Like are they very restless? Or are they just sitting there very peaceful, but they are making very intense eye contact with you? You see, I can find the expression of love in many ways more than just spoken communication. And I often believe if more people would choose to be silent a little easier than just blabbing whatever comes up in your mouth. I'm not saying we're speaking nonsense. I'm just saying we often speak for the sake of avoiding silence. We're not comfortable with silence anymore. We live in a world where we always have to be entertained, whether it's TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, television, the news, sports. We seem to be always need to be entertained, and I no longer have that. There is something incredibly peaceful and beautiful about silence, and I feel an expression of love in that. So that is all covering somewhat telepathy, empathy, and silent communication. Words don't always need to be said out loud for the other person to feel them. I was in a relation a few years ago, and our relation was incredibly intense. And the deepest, strongest, most intense parts of the relation were actually the words that were never said out loud. Yes, we did say to one another, I love you, and we still say that. But what I mean is, I can feel how this person feels from 5,000 miles away. Not a text message, not a phone call, nothing. I can just feel it. So that could be because we have a very strong emotional bond, and that is most likely what I know it to be. And that's where we come in with telepathy, empathy, and silent communication. There has to be something, not just on this planet. I think this is universal. Like everything that we can see through a telescope, even beyond that, like the entire universe, there is an energy that is making itself available as an information field, a communication field. We have just somehow never been taught how to use it. But pay close attention to the people that do not speak a lot of words. People that are very peaceful and don't just talk randomly just to break silence. These people are very in tune with true communication. That communication that does not require words and sound. I didn't make a note of this, but I just recall something else that I want to touch upon. All humans have a voice box, vocal cords. A huge part of me is very convinced it was never meant for the use of words. If our voice was meant for anything, I think it was for two things: expressing emotion and healing by sound. We have quite a large range of, vocal tone, like high and low. So I've always been curious, why is it that we seem, the more we talk to people, the more confusion seems to arise out of nowhere? Like we think we're talking, somebody thought they heard something you didn't mean to express that way, but they picked it up wrong. Everything in this is in disarray, and now you have to argue about what you actually meant versus what they heard. So um, another area where you might notice this kind of communication is animals. Animals, like I own a cat. Friends of mine have dogs. They cannot speak in words that we know. And yet, are you really going to tell me you don't know what your animal wants when it makes certain sounds, when it gives you certain looks? You generally have a good idea of what it wants. And if you pay very close attention, you will notice your cat or your dog or whatever pet you have, it can express an emotion that has a useful meaning behind it. Silly examples, the cat wants food, the cats want to be let outdoors, the cat is tired and sleepy. You could easily say we can see that in their body language. Yeah, just standing by the door, of course they want to go out. No, even if you are in your kitchen cooking and the dog or the cat is standing there with you, somehow you will know it wants to go outside. How if they didn't speak, let me out, I have to go use the bathroom, right? We can do the same thing with animals. I telepathically, telepathically project to my cat how I feel all the time. I'm not lying to you when I say every day when I leave for work, the cat goes outside. She knows I'm going to be gone for 9 hours. Now, humans, we have a watch on our arm. We can say, okay, 9 hours, he will be back home and I will be waiting. You see, a cat can wander for easily a mile away from the house. It would take 5 to 10 minutes to come home, right? If it wandered that far. See, here is what I do. I let my cat out and I telepathically show her an image of me being somewhere else, not home. I show her me being gone for 9 hours essentially without the use of a clock. Now, when I am almost done with work, for me, it is about a 5 minute drive from work to my house. When I start the car at work to come home, I sent a telepathic message to my cat showing her that I am about to be back home soon, and I'm showing her a vision of our house, me and her by the front door. And 9 out of 10 times, the cat arrives at the exact same time as I do. I pull in the driveway and poof, she jumps out from a bush where she was waiting for me. I know for a fact she doesn't just lay there all day afraid to wander away. I have seen my cat several blocks down the road. Like, I know she wanders far. But you see, we are able to communicate with our animals, not necessarily by saying, yes, yes, I'll get your food. You can somehow telepathically let them feel like, okay, I feel your hunger and I'm sending you a thought of, I'm going to feed you. This works. It takes some time and some practice, but I think humans can do the same thing. We have just never been taught to. I don't like to say we should read each other's mind. No, we still have our privacy, of course, and I'm not really wanting to venture into reading minds of other people, which I know is a thing too. Like, very often people tell me, "You just said what I was thinking." You see, I made it a huge point to not waste my quote unquote mind on wandering thoughts like, oh my God, I gotta do the dishes, I gotta go to work, I gotta pay the bills. And you can wonder about everything, even about the past and the future. As long as your mind is occupied with stuff like that, it is incredibly difficult to pick up information in the air. Like, I'm going to express it like that. Information in the air. And yes, I have noticed that when I suddenly say something, I know I wasn't thinking it. So why did I just say what I did? It was almost as if information in the air, I walked through it, my brain picked it up, and it found enough reason to say that out loud. People are familiar with channeling. This is very similar to channeling, but instead of channeling, an angel or, your spirit guides, I'm essentially channeling your thoughts now. You're still in a body, but somehow I heard something and I express it knowing it was not my information. See, Reverend Sean Walker is just typing it. He says, "Me and you, 3,000 miles away, and we're on the same page constantly." It sounds funny, right? But I really feel there is communication that goes beyond the use of your voice, beyond the use of spoken words. So there we go, man. 45 minutes in, and I think I've spoken much about the things that were on my mind. Reverend or Emma, if you guys want me to, approach communication from other angles, feel free to say something. I will start paying more attention to the chat now. I'm gonna quickly read my notes here to make sure I covered just about everything. But I do believe I did mostly. Yeah. So I do want to go more into communication without the use of your voice and words, obviously, in another video. That video will most likely be called either just energy or energy communication. Because if there was a school for energy communication, I'd probably be in it right now. Simple as that. Like, I think the closest thing we can get to learning that kind of communication is learning how to silence our mind. When you silence your mind, you're going to notice other forms of communication that you never thought were a thing. Emma is making a very good point here. Oh my God. Speaking about being in the modern world, most of us now communicate through our cell phones. And what are we usually doing? We are texting, just letters on the screen. She says, I was speaking about misinterpreted communication. The worst is through messages. Spot on, Emma, because yes, so often we text something, and again, when we are texting somebody, we know how we feel about the words that we are typing down. But again, say the person that's receiving the words is already in a nasty mood, they're not going to read your words the way you were trying to communicate them. They're going to pick very easily a word out that feels like an insult all of a sudden. While in your mind, it might have been the use of an innocent word or even a compliment somehow. So I have the same problem. And have you ever noticed some people use a lot of emojis like smiley face, sad face, crying face, huggy face? Almost all my text messages will include emojis, not because they look childish and cute, but because I feel that is the one thing you cannot ever communicate through just text on pages. That is emotion. And essentially, that is what emojis are. They are a single picture of a simple emotional feeling. So I'll give you a sentence. I went to work today. That's a very innocent sentence that doesn't tell you at all how I feel. Now I can put an emoji behind it, and suddenly that sentence will have much more value and weight and expression behind it. I went to work today, smiley face. I'm essentially saying I went to work, I had a good day, I'm happy about the fact that I worked today, right? Or I went to work today, sad face. Now what? I'm kind of expressing I had a bad day at work, but I was there, I worked. You see? Yeah, see, Sean Walker is saying the same thing. Text is really, really bad, but it is possible, like in my work, reading text that isn't there, hitting the point without the words being there. Yes. Emma, thanks for your emojis. Smile. I love it. Perfect. See, that's what I'm talking about. And Reverend Sean Walker, yes, you are hitting on something too. And that is often something I personally am doing a lot too. And again, I want to make a video separately on energy. But yes, words can and do always carry energy. But most of us are just not in tune with these things. We think the word is what it is, and however you interpret it, your mind takes off. Again, a single word can be a compliment, an insult. How do you know? See, I'm gonna say two words, but only because of the tone of my voice are you gonna know what I'm saying. That's great. That's great. Did you hear the difference? Can you tell what each expression was actually saying versus that is great, as in if you just use English vocabulary, you're basically saying that is good, it is more than good, it is great. But when I'm saying that's great with an upbeat tone and emotion in my voice, you know I am actually meaning just that. That is great and something good. I perceived something good. That's great. Now I am essentially expressing frustration. And you see, that is also something when you hear communication or when you're trying to communicate, don't just listen to the words, hear and feel the emotions that come with it. Uh, Me, Sean, and Yasmin had a three-way communication a while ago over the phone, and Reverend said something that I have noticed that is true for me too. People who speak in a very monotonous voice, like I think I have too, they seem capable of expressing more than the words that they are actually saying. It is almost I can't think of the word right now. Oh, subliminal. There are subliminal messages in the words that we speak. You say, oh, subliminal dangerous, you could hypnotize me. Yes, even that could happen, and that's not necessarily what we're talking about. It's the problem with texting. Again, we can't feel or see or hear the emotion from the other person. The same goes for a person that speaks monotonous. It's difficult sometimes to feel if they're expressing a happy mood or a sad mood, a depressed mood, excited mood. If the tone of your voice never changes, how can you know how these people feel? We in, intentionally and sometimes unintentionally we express it not by our words but by the emotion that we let carry over the sound wave. Only when we use different tones, that is why we are monotoned. Yes. So you see, when we speak, often, especially if it's someone dear to me, see, I have no words to explain what I know to be true, but I feel I can just talk to you, but I can also project over the tone of my voice a feeling of peace and calm, but I have to feel that feeling too. If I can do that and now I speak, I can make you feel the way I am feeling. Most of us know this usually when cursing is going on. Someone is very angry, they are cursing, and you are going to start feeling angry too, even if you don't take that personal. Something similar is going on, but you see, these people are usually doing it unconsciously. They are just angry, they're letting it out, and they don't even know other people are feeling that. Sean Walker, correct. Yes, thank you. I really feel that what I'm saying is true. Many of us do it unconsciously, and that is why I'm always very sad when people rapidly express their displeased with other people, because other people feel a little broken inside when somebody else expresses some sort of, unhappiness towards you. But the reverse works too. When somebody says praising words towards you, it has an uplifting feeling, although the words themselves, they're not saying, I want you to feel better. Are you magically going to feel uplifted? Not necessarily. That's usually a feeling we have to feel within ourselves. But monotonous people, they can talk and they can actually convey more than just the words they are speaking. So definitely gonna do a video on energy in communication, because yeah, chaos as limited reason. We don't talk chaotic. I agree. Like, somehow it feels like people that live a chaotic life, they don't have a steady path. They just, again, whichever way the wind blows for them this day, that is what they let out. They absorb it, they let it out. Like, it's very chaotic. So they don't seem to, well, they don't seem to, they probably do not have that kind of control over their emotional state, never mind the emotions that they carry over their voice. So you see, sorry, my wires are getting tangled up here. Yeah, what do you think, Emma? What do you think, Sean? Is Steve McNeil listening? I haven't heard you say anything in the chat yet. So, hmm. Mm-mm-mm. The video is just about an hour long. Should we continue on communication? Um, what I always like to remind people of is he got the addiction video by accident. I gotta figure out a way on how to forecast my live stream. I know you can do it because I listen to other channels too, like 4 of them, and one person 24 hours before the live stream, he has a sign up essentially saying live stream starting, and you can see the countdown, 23 hours and 59 minutes. Emma, all good, happy with everything you've covered. Awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So Reverend John Walker is typing me something here. Give me 1 second. But yeah, throat warbling. He calls it throat warbling. If you've ever heard Tuvan or Mongolian throat singing, that is what I personally feel was actually the true reason for why we have a voice. I'm a huge believer in energy healing. I mean, I don't believe it. I'm a knower. I know it is a thing. It is real. But when you say the word energy, since we're talking about communication, I say the word energy. What are you considering is energy? Is you hearing my voice? Are you hearing energy? You see, if you ask me, yes, you are. If you have a what's that computer screen called, where you can see the speed of not the speed, the frequency of a sound, essentially, everything that vibrates is an energy. Even If we cannot perceive the vibration, it is still energy. Therefore, any tone, any sound that comes through our vocal cord is by default energy as well. So, if you knew that, say, cancer lets out its own tone, cancer has its own frequency, its own vibration. If you could have the hearing to hear the frequency of this cancer, you could essentially destroy the cancer by giving it its destructive frequency. What am I? Good God. Are you just saying you can heal cancer with sound? Yes. Humans necessarily cannot necessarily generate the tone that destroys cancer, but I'm going to give you a very simple example. If you haven't seen this video, you can take this as a fact or you can just take it as me saying something. But if you take a crystal glass and you ping it with your fingers so you can hear the natural tone this glass produces, like bing, we've all heard that. If you have a strong enough voice and you sing that very same tone into the glass, it will chatter. Now, here is the funny thing. Only that tone will make it chatter. If you sing a little too high or a little too low, and obviously way off high or low, the glass will not chatter. It is essentially oblivious to whatever energy, quote unquote, tone is going on in the room. The same thing goes for almost all disease in our body. It has its own frequency, it has its own energy, it has its own tone. If we could hear it, we could literally sing it into destruction, sing it away, gone. Can you imagine that? That sounds too good to be true, right? But I know that is real. It doesn't mean I'm capable of doing it. Energy healing involves mostly that. I am essentially giving you somewhat of a verbal idea of what energy can do and how it can be used or misused, essentially, too. Like every energy humans find, we always find a way to misuse it. But I personally like to believe I want to help everybody that I can help. So if that just happens by me saying something almost unbelievable, I might have just helped you by now you're intrigued and you're going to look it up and learn further on your own. Emma, big believer in energy healing, big on energy. Aura. Yes, aura. See, that is another thing. Your body as a whole sings a tone. It's easy to imagine a glass, you smack it with your finger. I don't have a glass here with me, of course, but I have a Coke can. You know, it's not empty, but you can hear a faint ring in there. You see, the human aura, what you are actually seeing is mostly the ringing of your whole body. When you have a loudspeaker, your surround system in your car, your TV room, wherever, that sound can only go so far. And obviously, the louder the volume, the further the air can carry that sound, that energy. Your aura is a little bit the same. Depending on how well tuned you are with your body, the bigger and more vibrant your aura is. This, um, I actually feel this is well fitting in the topic of communication because, again, we were saying earlier, even if no words are spoken, is there still communication? Have you ever come near a person and suddenly you felt different? Either you're going to feel very good or you have a sudden fight or flight feeling. That is actually your aura interacting with the aura of another person. And this feeling that has no real words, it's an instant feeling. You just know you feel it. If you start thinking logical at this point, you're going to get lost in your own thoughts. Forget it. Feel, observe what you just felt, and realize your body is actually communicating to you in its own way. Sadly, most of us try to rationalize away why we suddenly feel different, as if nothing has happened. There is almost no way your body is suddenly feeling different without input from elsewhere, even your own thoughts. Yeah, your own thoughts could be from elsewhere, I suppose. But see what I mean? Don't just dismiss strange occurrences in your life. Know that there is always a source that caused it. Like I said, a speaker can only reach maybe across the room, maybe across your whole yard. When you're mowing, you want to hear your sound that loud, who knows? But aura is the same. It can communicate very far. And if you are familiar with a laser pointer, it is light. When you have a light bulb in the ceiling, it casts its light in all directions. When you have a laser, it only casts its light on a very precise point. The same thing goes for humans. I believe we, and I guess I'm ending up in the energy field here a little bit. We can laser focus our energy and communicate directly to the energy of somebody else by focusing our frequency, our emotions, and project them out towards other people. So even though your aura might feel like it's only like 1 maybe 2 feet from your body, I've had people tell me, again, this I have weird random occurrences that happen in my life, but I've had people tell me they could feel me coming from 200 feet away. I mean, it didn't blow me away at the time because I'm always working on myself to be more peaceful, more calm, more accepting of the now, rather than walking around with a judgmental mind like, what's he up to? What are they talking about? I let that all excuse me, I let that all go. I'm just present, and I don't necessarily see aura, but I feel it very clearly when I come near somebody or even something. Even a tree in the woods can give me a feeling that I can clearly distinguish isn't from me, and yet I'm feeling communicated with. Can I see with my eyes the aura of that tree? Not necessarily, but I can feel its interaction, you see? See, Sean, that's why I didn't want to throw it all in one video because yes, communication, I wanted to stick to verbal use of our voice, the use of words. But like I said, energy communication is something completely different, and yet it still falls under communication. The word communication itself is confusing. Again, when I say I'm communicating, what am I communicating? How am I communicating? You see, energy is also a communication. Absolutely. Comment from Emma. Children and animals are the best judge of aura. I like your comment, Emma. And guess what? I think I said it earlier on in the video. Instead of adults telling children what they should expect, what is expected of them, how they should behave, blah, 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 we should actually pay a little more attention to our children. Adults' behavior is learned behavior, it is taught to us by others. Children don't have that problem yet. Yeah, I'm calling it a problem. When they behave, it's natural behavior to them. So I have a daughter too. She's 6 years old. But when she was born, I witnessed a couple of things that blew my mind. When when I stand on a chair to change a light bulb or whatever, some big part of my mind knows if this chair tips over, falls over, whatever, or I lose balance, I'm going to hurt. I'm gonna fall. However way I fall, doesn't matter. It's gonna hurt somehow, right? If you have ever had newborn children, have you ever noticed that they have a total lack on fear of heights? You see what I mean? Our fear of heights is a learned behavior. As you live, as you make mistakes, you're gonna fall a couple times. You know, gravity is a learned behavior too. You hold a ball in your hands, you let go, it's going to fall on the ground. This is gravity. For young children, this is nothing. No rule says to them, okay, high means it's gonna fall. This happened to my daughter several times. She couldn't walk yet. We were, watching a movie on the TV. She was on the couch next to me, starts crawling around. I'm enjoying watching her crawl around. I didn't see any danger anywhere, and yet within seconds she tumbled off the couch, started, wailing, of course, but it never occurred to me this couch is high for the child, and yet the child had no fear of crawling off the couch. Like, it didn't know falling is a thing. It didn't know gravity is a thing, and it blew my mind. Anyway, what does that have to do with children and auras and pets? Their minds are not so polluted with preconceived notions of what should and shouldn't be. They are much more in tune with feeling the world versus hearing and seeing it. There is a huge difference between feeling versus, hearing, seeing, physically feeling. See, communication. When I say feeling, what are we? What do you think I'm saying? Feeling as a sense is literally feeling touch. But when you feel sad, that is, we have to use the same word. It is a feeling. But these two are very different. One is a physical feeling, the other is a emotional vibration, an emotional feeling, an intellectual thought, an intellectual feeling. See, there is still a difference here between feeling and feeling. But children can do that much easier because they only feel. We adults, we feel, and then we start rationalizing our feelings. So we become disconnected from our feelings when that process takes place. Children don't do that yet. Beautiful comment. Someone is having struggling with the live chat, but I told Reverend Sean Walker I would keep him on my cell phone as well, so he can communicate with me. Things that I should talk about if I'm overlooking them or I'm skipping through them too fast. Steve McNeil says he likes my idea on cancer, and he is having trouble with the live chat apparently. Steve McNeil, if you're still listening, man, I am huge on that. I know sound therapy is a thing, light therapy is a thing. Guys, if you're listening, I am never going to tell you don't go to your doctor, do this instead. I just know for myself, me only, the last thing that I will consult is a regular doctor. I will first explore all natural remedies. And yes, I consider sound, light, herbology, holistic treatments. I consider those all, healthy forms of treating a physical issue, an ailment. The reason I have a problem with what science comes up with, all these pills, all these medications, and fun fact, we call it drugs. When has drugs ever meant a good thing? Not really. But we don't know a human body as a whole. There is a problem in your liver. Let me give you a pill to, fix your liver. Okay, what are you throwing out of balance to fix the liver? That is my problem with pharmaceuticals. We seem to fix one thing, but we're throwing a whole bunch of others out of balance. Reverend Sean Walker, yes, I am familiar with that. I'm looking forward to the day science will finally, and I'm speaking medical science, of course, we will finally admit that they've always known how to destroy all disease. So far, they're giving us one thing. I have never experienced this, and I hope I never have to, but gallstones, gallbladder stones. That is one thing we are now indeed uh, curing, essentially, remedying with sound. We can use ultrasound. Yeah, this is in a hospital. We can use ultrasound. It pulverizes the gallstones to such a fine grit that you can just urinate it out. That is one example. I don't know. I kind of want to do a video on my views on health, but I'll tell you a very simple example here. I believe that our body is almost identical to our planet, Earth. Now, take our human behavior on this Earth. We are living in a consumerism world. We no longer care about recycling. When I was younger, glass bottles were huge. Now everything is aluminum. Okay, aluminum is easy to recycle too, but like these weird combinations of cardboard, aluminum foil, and it's incredibly hard to recycle these things. At least in a easy environmental friendly way. Like aluminum, if you heat it high enough in temperature, it just melts and you can instantly recast it into other things. Other material cannot just be melted back into a substance where you can reapply it into different forms. Bam, lost my train of thought. Oh, right. So what do we do with the stuff we cannot use? We just dig a hole in the earth, cram it full, and when it's full, we'll throw a little dirt over it, maybe plant a couple trees. God, I hope we would plant some trees on it. But what did we do here? Out of sight, out of mind. That's what we did. We know it's a problem. We know it is our problem. But instead of forcing us to buy things that are super easy and cheap to recycle, no, we're like, it's easier money for me, the money machine talking again, by using a much cheaper product, and I don't care what happens after the product was used. See, our body, when we are eating food, and for the sake of this topic, I'm going to say eating junk food, is the same thing. You are treating your body as a landfill. You are not feeding it, you are just filling it. Big difference. But your body over time is going to start to do the same thing. Things are showing up in your body. They cannot be processed in any reasonable manner, efficiently, cleanly, and your body struggles to literally eliminate it. I believe 99% of our tumors, cancers, even all these mental struggles people are going through are a direct result of that. We have filled our body. Now the landfill is full. And what does our body do? Let's make a hole right there. Cancer. Let's just shove it all there. Hopefully the guy will become aware before it's too late. What would you do with a landfill if you knew it was polluting all the groundwater? No wildlife could live there, nothing. The sensible thing to do would be dig up the landfill and deal with the dirt in a responsible, deal with the waste in a responsible manner, right? Earth will always recover on its own. We're a big problem on this planet. We don't know how to live in harmony with it. That's just a fact. But if we were to take responsible of our stupidities from the past now, our planet would appreciate us humans much more. The same thing goes for our human body. I personally, and again, I want to make this loud and clear, this is how I feel. If I ever find out I have cancer or tumor or, dementia, things that affect the brain, my first resort will be very instant fasting, water fasting. Not a few hours, not a few days. I will fast until this cancer is essentially eliminated from my body. You see, I'm aware. I put the cancer there, not intentionally. I'm not eating a hamburger saying, all right, let's go for the cancer now. No. I'm aware that if I get out of the way from my own body, I give it some time to recuperate, it will recover. Our planet does the same thing. We make landfills all over the world. Have you ever looked at a place where we dump all the tires that we use on our cars every day? See online for a video, tire dump. You're not going to believe what you see. But this is a good example. We do not have an efficient way of recycling tire. You see that one word there, efficient. It means nobody can make money out of it. If we're gonna continue living on this planet like that, where we're just gonna do stuff for the sake of making money, it's not gonna keep going well for us. So you see, when you're eating and suddenly you are starting to experience health issues, there is another form of communication going on here. That feeling that you feel like you're not feeling well anymore, it's very difficult for you to get out of bed, it's very difficult for you to sit upright. This is another form of communication from your body. Your body is communicating to you that there is a problem. So again, what is the first thing that we do when we feel out of normal? We run to the doctor. The first thing I do when I don't feel right is I lay down and rest. I mean, if you break a leg, yes, obviously you're going to need some medical attention. Just laying down and resting isn't necessarily the right thing to do here. But you see what I mean? Just not feeling right for a minute. Is your body saying, take a break? If it's in your intestinal area, like your whole belly region, if it's there, it means whatever you're putting in your body isn't right. The food, essentially. But if you're overall not feeling right in other places of your body, it's again, your body is communicating with you. Are you willing to listen? Several videos ago, probably over a dozen videos ago, I used the I don't know what it is. I'm going to say riddle. If a tree falls in the forest and nobody is around to hear, does it make a sound? You see, the thing that I am talking about right now, to me, is exactly what that riddle means. Your body, a tree is falling in the woods. Your body is communicating to you. Does it make a sound? Are you there paying attention to hear and feel this communication from your body? If the tree falls and it made a sound, good job. You got the riddle. It means you are listening to your body. The tree made a sound. Your body, you heard your body essentially. You felt your body, and you can now take the appropriate measures. Whatever you think is right for you, go for it. Don't just say, oh, I'll be fine. No, you're essentially dismissing the communication from your body. I have that tendency too. Ugh, I'll be fine and I'll carry on with my day. But even when I do that, I am not going to eat something immediately. I will usually wait a few hours and I will tell my body, this is a mental inside feeling. I will give my body a feeling. Again, telepathic communication. You can do that with your own body too. I'm telepathically communicating to my body. Okay, I heard you. We're struggling here. I will do my best to not make it worse and give you time to alleviate this. When I say you, I mean my own body, essentially. So, yes. Reverend John Walker, you're saying our body is talking without words, feeling only? Yes. Feeling, again, both in the physical sense and in what's the other word? The energy sense, I guess. It's your body can sometimes can express how it feels through an emotion almost. And again, this is our inability to distinguish, are we feeling like crap? Did we just feel someone else feeling like crap and now we feel like crap and we're not sure if we're feeling like crap or we're feeling what they're feeling? But I also think, yes, our body is trying to show us how it is feeling through the form of emotion. And often we mistake that as in, ugh, I'm not feeling good. What if that's just your body saying, hey, take it a little easier. Hey, just drink water today. Just for one day, drink just water. Give us a breakdown here. We need some time to catch up. So give me 1 second. I'm gonna read through the chat. I mean, I only gotta see like 5 comments quick. It's been known to unlock intricate locks using vibrations. Yes. Children and animals. Please. I'm back to ghost dance. Okay, yep. So yeah, I've pretty much touched on everything that I've wanted to say about communication. I'm already leaning towards energy communication. Reverend Sean, if it's good with you, I would like that to be the next video. That way, these two videos are closely linked to each other. So, but I think I'm gonna wrap it up here, guys, because again, I'm wandering too far in a different form of communication, which is a great subject, but I want to keep that separate. That way, this video doesn't turn out to be 4 hours long. So, all right, guys. My name is Aiden. It was a pleasure talking to you all. Please subscribe. Please comment. If you ever feel there's topics that you randomly think of throughout your day, you can comment it randomly on any video because I will still read all my comments. And if you give ideas for me to make videos in the future, no doubt I will do work with your suggestions. So I hope you all enjoy a wonderful weekend. And I'm looking forward to meeting all of you again in the next video. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, guys.